Welcome to Defending Digital. I'm Chad Warner. Today's topic, 6 password problems that LastPass solves. How many passwords do you have? 20? 80? 200? 300? If you have a unique password for each account, as you should, that number climbs quickly. How could a person possibly create and manage that many passwords? Even if you find a way to handle passwords at home or work, what do you do when you're away from those places? Fortunately, there are password managers that answer these questions. I've been using the LastPass password manager for years, and I highly recommend it. Let me give you a few tips for creating and managing strong passwords with LastPass. The threat. Passwords are still extremely common, despite some progress towards replacing passwords with biometrics and other authentication methods. LastPass found that the average employee using its password manager is managing 191 passwords. That means you're frequently asked to create and remember passwords. This results in a number of practices that reduce security. The first of those bad practices is using short passwords. When people think they need to remember all their passwords, they create short passwords that are easier to remember. But the shorter a password, the easier and faster it is to crack using password cracking software. That's because the fewer the characters in the password, the fewer combinations the software needs to try. The second threat is simple passwords. Another thing people do when they think they need to remember all their passwords is create passwords that are made up of common words that you'd find in a dictionary, such as monkey, or memorable letter or number sequences, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or QWERTY, the first row of keys on the keyboard. Such passwords are easy to crack using password cracking software, which look for common words and sequences. A third problem is duplicate passwords. Another thing that people do when they think they need to remember all their passwords is reuse the same passwords across multiple accounts. According to Mark Goodman in the book Future Crimes, 75% of people use the same password for multiple websites, and 30% use the same login for all their online activities. Think of the physical keys that you use. What if you used the same key for your house, your car, a safe, and your workplace? What if you lost that key and someone found it, they would immediately be able to access not just one of your properties, but several or all. The same principle applies to passwords, which are digital keys. If you use the same password for multiple accounts and someone gets that password, then they immediately have the ability to access many of your accounts. The fourth problem is insecurely storing passwords. When people decide that they shouldn't use the same password for everything, they realize they're going to need to record their multiple passwords. I've seen people use Post-it notes on their monitors, a text file on their computer, a Google Doc, a draft email, and other methods that are not secure. These containers have few barriers to prevent people from finding the passwords they contain. The fifth problem, not changing passwords after breaches. No matter how careful you are about your personal cybersecurity, it's inevitable that organizations will suffer data breaches, and your passwords will be leaked. We hope that every organization is encrypting and otherwise protecting passwords, but sadly, that's not true. And even when passwords are encrypted, there is always the chance that they can be decrypted. If you don't change your password for an account after a breach affects that account, it's only a matter of time before someone uses your password to access your account. This is especially dangerous if you use that same password for multiple accounts, because hackers will try to use that password all over the internet. And the sixth problem is insecurely sharing passwords. Although it's always best to have your own credentials for an account, sometimes that's not an option, and you need to share an account. For example, most of the websites for my utility companies don't let me create multiple users, so I need to share those accounts with my wife. If you send passwords through email or another insecure messaging system, you run the risk of those passwords falling into the wrong hands. So how can you increase your security? Fortunately, there's one tool that can greatly alleviate all of these problems. It's called a password manager. There are many options. I've been using LastPass for years, and I highly recommend it. Other options are KeePass, 1Password, Dashlane, Bitwarden, and PasswordSafe. And I have links for all these in the blog post that goes along with this episode. I'll show you how to use LastPass to help you create and manage passwords. Now, here's a brief overview of how LastPass works. LastPass lets you create and manage passwords from your computer, phone, or tablet, and it securely syncs your passwords to their servers. There are browser extensions and apps for several browsers and mobile operating systems. You need to enter your master password to unlock your password vault, the container of all of your passwords. Because your vault is encrypted on your device before it's synced to LastPass's servers, neither LastPass nor anyone else who were to gain access to your vault would be able to get your passwords out of it. There's a lot more to know about LastPass, which you can learn from their website. I'm going to focus on how LastPass solves the specific problems I discussed above. So the first one here, we had talked about short passwords, so the opposite here is longer passwords. You can use LastPass to create new passwords. One of the settings is password length. Because each additional character makes it exponentially stronger, the longer it is, the better. However, most websites and apps have limits on how many characters you can use in a password. I recommend using at least 15 characters. I use 20. If an account says you've used too many characters, you can reduce the number until you reach the maximum allowed. LastPass has a security challenge that will analyze your passwords and tell you which ones are weak, and it can even automatically change some of them for you. The second solution is more complex passwords. LastPass's password generator has advanced options that allows you to select the classes of characters used in your passwords. Those are uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, sometimes called special characters. I recommend checking the box for all 4 classes. If an account says you've used a character that they don't allow, just replace that character with one that is allowed. Again, LastPass's security challenge analyzes your passwords and tells you which ones are weak. It can even automatically change some of them for you. The third solution, unique passwords. This is where LastPass really shines. Because LastPass makes it so easy to create and store passwords, there is no reason not to create a unique password for every account. LastPass's security challenge analyzes your passwords and tells you which ones are duplicates. The fourth solution, securely storing your passwords. As I mentioned earlier, LastPass stores your passwords securely. LastPass says, quote, "We've implemented AES 256-bit encryption with PBKDF2 SHA-256 and salted hashes to ensure complete security in the cloud. Your data is encrypted and decrypted at the device level. Data stored in your vault is kept secret, even from LastPass. Your master password and the keys used to encrypt and decrypt data are never sent to LastPass's servers and are never accessible by LastPass." End quote. To open your vault, you must enter your master password. You can also manually log out of the LastPass browser extension or app anytime you want. And you can set your browser extension or app to automatically log you out of LastPass when you close all of your browsers and or when you've been idle for a certain number of minutes. You can set individual passwords and notes to prompt for your master password again, even if you're already logged in. I recommend doing this for sensitive accounts like financial and medical accounts. LastPass supports several forms of multi-factor authentication. I highly recommend enabling one or more of them. If you try to log in from a new device when you haven't told LastPass to remember, LastPass will require you to authenticate yourself with another factor. The fifth solution is breach alerts. LastPass automatically informs you when your email address has been exposed in a data breach and which breach it was. That way you know which password you should change. And the sixth solution, securely sharing passwords. LastPass provides an extremely simple yet secure way to share passwords with other LastPass users. You can even share the password without allowing the recipient to see the password. That way they can use the password to log in, but they're not able to learn what the password is. You can even unshare passwords when the time comes. So, what should you do? 5 steps. 1. Research password managers. I recommend LastPass, and it will probably work well for you, but it wouldn't hurt to research the alternatives. 2. Sign up for a password manager, which could be free or paid. 3. Install the password manager on any devices where you'll need it. 4. Configure the password manager's settings for the maximum level of security and privacy that you can for your situation. And 5. Move all your passwords into your password manager, then destroy any insecure copies of those passwords. You can find the blog post that goes along with this episode at defendingdigital.com, as well as learn more about digital security and privacy.